CBSN political contributor and Democratic strategist Lynda Tran is in Washington. She's also the founding partner at 270 Strategy. It's good to see you, Lynda.
Great to see you.
You heard the president make an overture of sorts to Democrats after months of harsh rhetoric. Were you surprised by what he had to say?
You know, I'm not surprised by what he had to say, but two things. One is, I don't know how much store you can set by what President Trump is saying in this particular moment, given that, he is known for being kind of ethereal and maybe a little bit finicky around his relationships with people. But what I do think it reflects is that he is seeing the writing on the wall. After this humiliating experience around the Obamacare repeal, it's become very clear to him that while he thought that he could ram through his proposals with a Republican-controlled Congress, that, governing is a lot harder than campaigning, and he's got to deal with the various factions within his own caucus. And as a result, if he has any hope of moving through some of the major policy proposals that he's put forth, he's going to need to get some people on the other side of the aisle to stand with him.
Lynda, you talk about getting folks on the other side of the aisle. Senator Chuck Schumer, is he a key to opening the door between this relationship between the president and Democrats? How does the president manage to bridge that divide?
I do think that Chuck Schumer, certainly in the leadership role that he has, is going to be very, very important when it comes to any sort of conversations on health care or any other major policy pieces moving forward. But honestly, the biggest piece of all of this is going to depend on the American people. The reason why the Obamacare repeal faltered and went down in flames, frankly, was because of all of these protests that we were seeing in home districts of Republican members of Congress. And it was because of the action on the streets that you're seeing from people who are standing up and saying what they will and won't stand for.
All right, Lynda, 44 Senate Democrats have sent a letter to the president to say they are open to working with him on health care, but only if his administration commits to putting an end to all efforts to unravel the Affordable Care Act. What's the strategy here?
Honestly, I think that those members are thinking about the 20 million people who are covered under Obamacare. And what they're most concerned about is shoring up the system that exists so that those people's lives are not put at risk and so those people have consistent health care. But look, President Obama himself said that if there's a way to improve Obamacare, we ought to be looking into it. I think that Senate Democrats in particular mean it when they say if there's a path forward that makes improvements, they want to be there as part of it.
We know that the Trump administration, President Trump in particular, has now tasked his son-in-law to sort of try and shift the government into working more like a company. I wanted to get your thoughts, Lynda, on that, of changing government to operate more like a business.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that he has moved Jared Kushner into this particular role and that they're framing it as government as a business, because to me what it really highlights is a disconnect and a misunderstanding about what government really is about. Businesses are designed to maximize profit. Businesses are designed to make really tough choices to make sure that the numbers add up. But the reality is government is about caring for the people. And those two things are not only in conflict, but they're diametrically opposed. When you're thinking about providing health care to people who are dying in the absence of having affordable health care coverage, when you're thinking about supporting people with a social safety net, those are not, profit maximizers per se.
I want to ask you before we let you go about Gorsuch, the Supreme Court nomination. He needs 60 votes. There's some talks about going nuclear to where they would lower that threshold, something that hasn't been done before. What do you think? Where do you see this going? Do you see him going through? Is this in jeopardy now?
I think that Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump, everybody else kind of sees the writing on the wall. In particular, having somebody like Senator Bill Nelson, who is a moderate, who actually voted to put Gorsuch on the bench years and years ago, having somebody like that come out and say he's going to oppose the nomination makes very, very clear to them that there's not really a path to 60 votes. That said, the Republicans and the White House really need a victory. They need to post something after weeks and weeks of really tough news and weeks of defeats. And so I think they're moving forward with the nuclear option because they feel like they have no other option.
All right, Lynda Tran in Washington. Lynda, thank you.
Thank you.